Hello, everyone. I'm Eric D'Souza, and today we are continuing our series to celebrate the shortlist nominees of the Crime Writers of Canada Award of Excellence 2022. Joining me today is Nate Hendley, whose novel, The Beatle Bandit, has been nominated for the Brass Knuckle Award for Best Nonfiction Crime Book, sponsored by Simpson and Wellman Richter, LLP. Welcome, Nate, and thank you for agreeing to do the interview today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Eric. It's a pleasure.
Well, let's start off with a simple question. Who is the Beatle Bandit?
Ah, the Beatle Bandit was Matthew Carey Smith, and he was a intelligent but troubled young man who had served in the Royal Canadian Navy. And in the early 1960s, he started robbing banks in the Toronto area with the goal of financing a one-man revolution against the government. It was a little vague as to what he wanted to replace the government with, but nonetheless. So his most famous robbery in July 1964, he held up a CIBC bank in North York, and to disguise himself, he wore a Charles de Gaulle mask and a Beatle wig, which is how he acquired the name the Beatle Bandit.
I see. Now I know in the past you've written about like Dutch Schultz and Al Capone, big names in crime history, but I have to admit I'd never heard of Matthew Carey Smith before. So what drew you to this story?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I'd never heard of Matthew Carey either. I was doing a presentation on another book that I'd written. And as these things often happen, someone from the audience came up and started chatting with me and said, "Oh, I've got a great idea for a crime book. This guy, the Beatle Bandit, Matthew Carey Smith." I was intrigued. We exchanged email. This chap's name was Paul Truster. He is a former lawyer and had grown up in the neighborhood where this crime took place and had been he'd been sort of fascinated by it since childhood. We met, we chatted. He convinced me it was a really interesting story. I did some research, found out it had been well covered, so a lot of information. And to seal the deal, he had an entire tubload of records of the case involving, including the complete court transcripts. So 1,000 pages of court documents, police memos, wanted posters, all this amazing information. And he said, "You're welcome to use it. Just take it away." And so that's how I found out about the Beatle Bandit. And I was doubly surprised to discover no one else had ever written a book about this guy. And I'm thinking, like, what? How did this happen? And no one's ever heard of him. So that is sort of the genesis of the book.
Well, I've heard great things about the book, and obviously it's been nominated for awards, so you have to kudos to Paul. He also, I guess, helped you a lot with all your research.
Yes,
Um,
indeed.
which actually leads to the next question. I write fiction. It allows me to daydream, go for long walks, and think about horrible things to do to my protagonist. Whereas I think nonfiction is a little bit more, or a lot more research, getting all the details right. So why do you like nonfiction so much, or writing nonfiction?
Sure. Well, I love telling a story about something that actually happened. Like there is sort of the history buff in me. And when you have enough research material, as I did with Beatle Bandit, you can really shape that in a lot of ways. So I have throughout my book, basically scenes, for lack of a better word, where there's a discussion between Matthew Carey Smith and the people in the bank he's robbing, or Matthew Carey Smith and his friends. And this is all based on actual dialogue from either court transcripts or the statements that Matthew Carey gave the police. So it's all based on real conversations by real people, but I'm shaping it and writing it to give sort of a more of a I'm trying to think of the right cinematic story, I guess, for lack of it.
Yeah, because essentially you're still telling a story. Do you ever come across the point where there's a blank and you have to sort of fill in that blank in order to keep the story going? Or is that still nonfiction, or is that sort of going into creative nonfiction?
Yeah, that would sort of get into creative nonfiction. There are areas where I simply couldn't find certain bits of information. And generally when that happens, I would just concede the point in the book, saying there isn't much information about this period in his life or something like that.
Mm.
I made a point, and I was very proud of this at the start of the book. I said, there's no made up dialogue in this book. Every single conversation or anytime anybody says something, every quote is taken from a sourced document. And I'm very careful with that. I like that approach.
Yeah, that's really tip of the hat to Paul.
Yes,
A lot of
yes.
work for you. Obviously, in a short interview like this, we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg. So the good news is that we'll be talking a lot more soon. You're a panelist on the Maple Leaf Mystery Conference on May 24th. I think you're
Yes,
kicking
indeed.
off the event. The moderator for that is a friend of our Facebook page, Desmond P. Ryan. So it should be a great talk. And then June 8th, you and I will be attending, or we'll be talking again for Crime Writers Canada members. You'll be hosting our webinar, and we can go into a lot more detail about
Yes, yeah.
how you get all the details right. So for now, though, good luck on May 26th. I look forward to reading your book, and I will by the webinar. I hope everybody else does too. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Eric.
Good night, or good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon to you too, sir.